O'Brien's first book, The Country Girls, was a simple little tale of two girls who were trying to burst out of their gym frocks and burst out of their convent life and burst into the big city of Dublin. And it angered a whole bunch of people and was banned in Ireland and banned by the church. And in fact, Edna O'Brien's in her parish, the priest had a little book burning. He asked all the people who had country girls to bring them in, and in the churchyard they burnt the books. So when you read it now, it doesn't seem that astonishing, does it? I mean, this certainly not Country Girls. The first of this trilogy were, what did you think, Noreen?
Well, you begin in this very chaste world, right, where, as you say, it seems surprising that anybody would want to ban it. It's what's not said that's more of a tease, certainly at the outset, than what is said. Because, you know, you're dealing with all this kind of inarticulate desire, right, on the part of this young girl, and this naive narrator. But as you move through the trilogy, of course, it gets dirtier.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you can start to see how somebody might be teased into feeling things that they really are not supposed to be feeling.
Yeah, I know. And Edna O'Brien says by the time that the second one came out, they thought the first one was a prayer book. And but Ian, what did you think? I mean,
well, I thought. I can understand why they would ban it. I mean, a bunch of Irish priests in Ireland, you know, they don't want any of that talk of showing your brassiere or even wearing a brassiere, really, or owning a brassiere, I imagine. But as the book went on, I thought it should be banned again because it contains portraits of girls that I and many other men my age dated, and it brings back. I can get into this later, but there are all kinds of really terrifying things in here that I would.
Like what? No, don't get into it. What? Well, give us a little bit now.
And you can start with naming names.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Kathleen, for instance, who is there are two girls. One of the girls, as you know, is a Baba, and Baba's the extrovert, I guess. She's the fast girl, right? She's the modern girl.
Right.
And then there's Kathleen. She's the old-fashioned girl. She's the girl who's sensitive and everything. And Kathleen is like your worst dating nightmare. She is. I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm in my late 40s, and I dated Kathleen many times.
What kept you coming back?
Well, in a way, she's what put a whole generation of men off feminism. Or not off feminism, but longing for feminism, but off. I mean, way too deep.
Yeah,
you know?
Yes. What about Kathleen? Was it her sensitivity,
She's a gaping wound of need is the problem. B, she's the kind of girl, you know, you walk into breakfast and she says, you're not wearing the sweater I gave you 6 months ago. You don't love me anymore.
There's a little bit of her in all of us.
Sorry, Mickey.
Well, I can certainly see why it's a pretty scathing indictment of Catholicism in the beginning, and the girls going off to the school. I mean, I can see why, from their point of view, that would be considered shocking. And now we have a greater understanding of that kind of rigid way in which they're teaching the young women, but really there's like two different levels on which life is being lived. It's the sort of expectation of one thing, and then there's the reality.
There's still constraints on
life,
her.
isn't
Right.
it?
Well, yeah.
Well, it's certainly that life, and that's what's sort of sad, because
Yeah.
you see these two kind of incredible potentials, and then they're kind of aiming for here, and one ends up here and one ends up sort of in the middle, and that is sad.
Well, nobody in any of this is happy, men or women. I mean, it looks as if everybody's having a pathetic time of it.
Man's world. I mean, join the club.
Yeah.
What were you expecting?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks of a good time, as somebody says. But you know, I still think if you were, I mean, as I was reading this, there's a line in it at one point where somebody says, it's quite near the beginning, oh yes, the two girls sit down with their mother and they have a chat, and the line is, they sat down and they talked in that way that women who get along well can talk when the men go out of the room. As I read that, I thought, you know, now in my life, at any rate, it's the men who wait for the women to go out of the room before we can say anything that will not. Seriously, I was at a dinner.
And what do you say?
Well, I was at a dinner.
Keep going.
Not very long ago.
Yeah.
What do you say?
A woman at the table who was there with her husband, with 10 people at the table, she began to talk about an erotic massage she had bought a business trip to Thailand. And the women are all sitting there going, oh, really, that sounds great. Where do you get one of those? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, sort of frozen with fear. If I return to Toronto on Friday this week, and I were to raise at a dinner party that I had, purchased for myself here in Halifax, the rules have changed. This is a book about women who are oppressed. You are not oppressed. And I wonder why it sort of, this is kind of the stuff, this book is the kind of stuff that, you look at the back here, my copy, got compelling novels by women. There's a little ad, compelling novels by women.
I gotta say, all that makes me crazy, because it remains chaste. There are these dirty bits, as you go through eventually, and there's a kind of more candor, especially when Baba's talking.
Yeah.
But I still find the sex is kind of still off stage somewhere. It goes only up to a point, and then you get these, I'm not saying I want, hardcore pornography, but I think she backs off. Edna O'Brien, she backs off from this.
But because she does, because she is Kate. She isn't, of course. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm not saying that she is Kate. But that was her. She was a country girl who grew up exactly that way. And when Kate talks about sex, she talks about how she's so touched by the softness of a man's genitals, and Lorraine, I know that you can throw that away as if that's something that, but I think that in a way she really was. That tenderness that she lacked, that she didn't have in her life, that she never had in her goddamn life, and that's what she was looking for. So she wasn't going, she's not going to lead you down some pornographic, tied to the chair thing that Baba does. Right. Baba mentions that a couple of times, being tied onto a chair, which, must have something to do with being a Catholic girl from the country, too. I don't know. But I think that Kate's experience of sex seemed really real to me, and the way that O'Brien wrote about it seemed, the only thing I didn't buy was that the guys didn't just push ahead. All those guys didn't. Like she got away, because usually there was those guys who were just going.
They're too drunk. Irish guys.
But those guys were going like this to your head all the time. Where were they?
Really?
What are you doing to my head? What can this possibly mean? But where were they? Edna O'Brien missed them.
I guess they were all for us.
Well, I was just in Ireland doing Random Passage last year, and there was a man who drove me who was a very nice man, and then he said, Mary, he said, you in that hat, you're gorgeous. He said, smother me, mother, to have a go at you. And I thought, that is a very, it was the first time I'd ever been in Ireland. It was one of the first things that an Irish person had said to me. And apparently he'd have to smother his mother to have a go. I thought, does your mother have to die? But of course, this is mother-ridden.
Apparently.
This is mother-ridden, of course, too, as I suppose all of Ireland is.